Okay, good afternoon, guys. Yeah, I'm just waiting for everyone to respond. So that's what I'm doing go live. Okay, everyone is here. 11 members. Okay. Okay. Kaldir, Amrita, Saran Raghav Adams, I think Tangavarma, Tam, Tambiran Venkatagiri. Is it Tangavarma? Srividya is there. Shivan, again, I forgot this name. Ovyashri Elamati, Prakalya, Samyukta, Sivaditya. Top down page. That my voice is audible, guys? Yeah, Kritika. Yeah, I'll remember. Okay, fine. Great. Okay, then. Okay, today we are going to discuss, I'm going to start a new lesson, right? That is, you might have seen the title itself, that is about ecosystem, botany part of the whole standard. Yeah. So everyone is having running notes, right? So we don't want to miss anything. Okay. Best a minute. Within 2 minutes, we'll start. Okay. Okay, guys. Hope everyone is there. So let's start with. I think May Rahul is not there, right? May Rahul is Ashwin is there. I think you should rename your account name. Ashwin, Srivarshan Ashwin, and May Rahul. 3 members are not there, I guess. Who else is not there? I. Angam. Angavarma. I mean, Angavar. Sorry. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4 members. Varama. It's not Varma. Okay, Varma. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 members are not there. So 15. Who else is not there? Girls, everyone is here, ma. Harini is not there. Okay. 4, 5 members are not there. 16. Okay, fine. We'll start. Oh, Prabhu KP, Harnesia. Okay. Then who is not there? Prakalya is not there then. Harnesia, Prakalya is not there. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 members are not there. 5, 6, 7. One more. Who is that? Who is that? Sai. Where is she? Is she sleeping or what? Around here. AG, Prakalya is there. Okay, guys. Okay. Sai, a new chapter, that time taking attendance. Again, it would be an issue. Yeah, AG and KP, I got confused. Honestly, AG is Prakalya. Yeah. Fine, right. Okay, now. We'll just post it in group and we'll start. Okay, okay, guys. So today we're gonna learn I'm going to introduce a new chapter, right? So this chapter introduction, in the sense, like we already discussed about few of the components in chapter 13, that is organisms and population, right? So where we have studied about few components of this chapter, right? So the chapter 13, topics would be little, in depth. It will be discussed. For example, we talked about different biomes. We talked about abiotic factors, biotic factors, and how they affect, right? So in the chapter 13, in organisms and population, we talked about how these factors would really affect, with temperature, soil, different factors we studied, right? Abiotic and biotic factors, right? So here we will be talking in more depth. Okay. So let me define this chapter, but let get the clue, right, sir? So what we are actually going to learn, we are going to learn about it's a kind of a structural and functional unit of a nature, for that matter, right? Few biologists, few ecologists will consider that the entire Earth is as a huge ecosystem, right? So for our understanding and for better understanding, we made into small ecosystems, right? Like that, we have many ecosystems, right? So today we're gonna discuss about chapter ecosystem, right? So how do we can visualize ecosystem? What is an ecosystem, for that matter? What in lower studies you would have studied about ecosystem, right? So what does ecosystem comprises of, right? So can anyone tell? Yeah, Tangavama. Okay, good. Three more missing. Who are they? Missing candidates. Okay. So can anyone define ecosystem in your own words? What do you mean by ecosystem, for that matter? What do you What do you understand with the term ecosystem in your lower standards you might have studied? Of that matter, in chapter 13, we had a small discussion on that as well. Are you guys out there? Community of organisms, all plants and animals, or flora and fauna. Uh-huh. What else? Okay. Anyone else, ma? Yeah. Plants and animals. Consists of all animals, birds, etc. Okay. That's it. If a plant is there, if an animal is there, that's it. That makes an ecosystem. What else? Any condition that helps the survival of flora and fauna. Conditions means you mean okay, interconnected system of organisms. Okay. Amrita. It comprises of plants, animals, water bodies. Okay. Any condition that helps in survival of flora and fauna. Okay. You mean to say about abiotic factors. Collection of flora and fauna. Okay. In a particular area. Okay. It is a community of living organisms in conjunction with the non-living components of their end. Okay. Okay. Fine. Okay. Good Adams. And Amrita, Saran, Sridivya, Prakalya, Samyukta, good. Rangavarma, Kritika, good. Biological community that occurs in some local and the physical and chemical factors that make up its non-living or abiotic. Okay, fine. Yeah, so basically you have got one idea, right? So what is meant by an ecosystem, right? Let's understand by its small definition, right? So actually, ecosystem can be visualized, right? You know, it is an actually a functional unit of a nature. So if you take in nature, right, how the nature is working. So as a biologist, we are more interested in understanding about nature and its functions, right? How exactly they are working, right? What are the interconnected, events that actually makes this ecosystem self-sustaining? So here we use word self-sustaining here, right? So the ecosystem can be visualized, right, as an functional unit of nature. We're all living organisms. This the living organism interact among themselves and their surroundings. If you see, if I'm in, I'm an organism and I'm interacting with the external surroundings. For example, this cooler, that air I'm getting in heats, right? Right, and I have different composition of gases in the air. At the same time, if it is a plant, it is interacting with the other abiotic factors, right? It, what exactly we can visualize as a living organism is interacting among themselves, and also, so if the plant is interacting with us, we are interacting with plants and other animals and other organisms, and also with the external physical environment, leading to energy flow and nutrient cycles. For that matter, this ecosystem can be understood by giving some input and getting some output. Okay, so we, as an input, we give few components, and as an output we collect the few components of an ecosystem acts as an output of this entire process, right? So ecosystem can be actually understood as a functional unit of a nature where living organisms would interact among themselves as well as their physical surroundings, which leads to energy flow. If you take, energy cycle, energy flow would be there from one strata to other strata, right? So if you take and producers, consumers, so there would be a flow of energy, and at the same time nutrient cycles. Nutrient cycles means here we will be discussing about how different elements like phosphorus and other sulfur and carbon cycles which involve in this ecosystem. So by and large, right? So few biologists and ecologists consider that the entire Earth is a giant, massive giant ecosystem. But we can't at a time we can't study the entire Earth, right? So we divide it into different parts of it, right? We divide it into small components and we study entire ecosystem. Is that clear? Is that clear, guys? Ecosystem, what we are learning. So now, example, if you take right from a small pond, right? Yeah, small, right? Good. So if you take example of ecosystem from small pond, right, to a entire huge biome, right? We will be talking about on what basis? On what basis means? What is it question? Saran, you asked something on what basis? What you meant to ask? Type a full question. I didn't understand your question. You mean to ask about energy cycles? Saran, are you there? How do we divide and study about different ecosystem on what basis? Yeah, that's what I'm going to explain. On what basis we study that? For example, there is a small mnemonic, right? We already studied about this mnemonic while I'm introducing organisms and population. Let's check that BBEPCO, right? Its pronunciation is funny, but it is BBECPO, BBEPCO, BBEPCO. It is biosphere, right? Biome, right? Ecosystem, community, population, and organism. This is how we study, right? We are putting, we are keeping in a hierarchy, and we are studying at the level of this strata, the web core. There is biosphere, biome, ecosystem, community, population, organism is what we study under ecosystem, right? So here if you remember chapter 13, right? Biospheres, we talked about different biospheres. So within a combination of all biomes would make a biosphere. That's what I am talking about. In hierarchical manner, we will study as simple as that. But obviously we are studying about biosphere, right? So entire biosphere works as an ecosystem, because if you see, and by and large earth, it has all abiotic and biotic factors which interacting among themselves, and there is transfer of energy, right? Productivity, right? There is a loss of energy. So these are all functional aspects for occurring in entire earth. But to study entire earth, it is very difficult as a global ecosystem. So we partition in this way, the web core. That is, we talk about biomes, different biomes in the case of chapter 13, right? Forest, desert, etc. We already studied in chapter 13, right? So in that way, we will, on that basis, we will study ecosystem. For example, a pond as an example. If you take a simple pond, right? So if you take a simple pond as an example to a large forest or a sea, right? So this is how we categorize, and we can actually understand the components of an ecosystem. How these biotic factors are actually interacting with abiotic factors, right? So likewise, we will study this entire ecosystem. Is that clear, guys? You guys have to write that the VECPO, right? Biosphere, biome, ecosystem, community, population, and organism. Okay. Yeah. So moving forward, right? So this is a little introduction about ecosystem, right? So when you see this, and by and large, right, we will be talking about smaller components of this entire global ecosystem, and these ecosystems, right? So now we are going into internal aspects, right? What are the we are going into different aspects, right? Different aspects of ecosystem. So what are those aspects we will try to understand. Okay. So if you see here, to see the comment section. Yeah. Okay, fine. Just a minute. Okay, fine. So if you see here, we will be talking about ecosystems. Right now, we will go to the in-depth of this ecosystems. Right. So what are all those components and what actually ecosystem comprised of? And before that, we will try to understand what are the types of ecosystem. So this ecosystem can be divided into natural and artificial ecosystems, right? So these ecosystems, right, can be divided into artificial and natural. So if you see, again, to simply recollect, what is an ecosystem actually? Ecosystem is would comprise of abiotic and biotic factors which interact with among themselves with the physical surroundings, right? And which leads to the energy flow and nutrient cycles, right? So though these things, these interactions can occur in two ways. Ecosystems can be of two types. One is of natural type and one is of artificial type. So what are all natural type of ecosystems that we will try to understand, right? So if you take the natural ecosystem, right? They are of again two types. One is terrestrial ecosystem and the second one is aquatic ecosystem. And you guys have to bear with me because this is a new chapter at the same time botany. So at the same time, these terms should be a little new for you. So when you don't understand any single word what I'm speaking or what I'm discussing, you please ask in comment section so that I will repeat it or I will try to explain it. So I'll go a bit slow. Let us start the lesson at the same time. We'll go a little slow and we'll finish the lesson. These aspects. Okay. So first I talked about ecosystem definition, right? And then I'm talking about how can we visualize the ecosystem. So we can visualize, how can we visualize an ecosystem? And the third point, as a third point, I gave an example of ecosystems that is right from the biosphere to a local ecosystem like a pond. Third point. And the fourth point, now we are discussing about types of ecosystem, right? Types of ecosystem. I'm seeing in comment section. Okay. So types of ecosystem. What are the types of ecosystem? There are two types of ecosystem. One is natural and artificial. So what do you mean natural ecosystem? So ecosystems which are occurring naturally, right, which are not built by human for that matter. And what are all the types of natural ecosystem, or what are the ecosystem does come under this category that we will be going to discuss. So far I'm clear, right? So let's move on. So in this natural ecosystem, there are two types of ecosystem, that is terrestrial and aquatic, right? In terrestrial, in terrestrial, for that matter, in organisms and population, we already discussed about different biomes, right? And different types of ecosystems. That we talked about deserts, we talked about forests, right? So in this natural type of ecosystems, what are the types we can see is one is terrestrial and the other one is aquatic. So in terrestrial, what are the examples we can talk about? Terrestrial means land ecosystems on land. So what are the ecosystems you can see in terrestrial? Can you guys tell? This is very simple basics. Uh, you know basics of bio. Every now and then we will encounter these all these things in our daily life also. Different ecosystems, etc. Can you guys give example of terrestrial ecosystems? Terrestrial ecosystem, types of terrestrial ecosystem. Examples. Forests, grasslands, deserts. Okay. Good. Anyone else? Is she right? Is Amrita is right? Tropical rainforest, Saran, Samyukta, desert forest. Good. Next. Come on, guys. Make it fast. Farms. Srividya. I'm asking about terrestrial, natural. I'm asking about natural type of terrestrial ecosystems, not artificial. Okay, next. Tundra. Okay, fine. Yeah. So in terrestrial, ecosystems, we come across deserts, right? Grasslands, right? Yeah, forest and grasslands, deserts comes under terrestrial natural ecosystems. It's just like an active passive immunity. There is a huge table, right? So likewise, we have a table like this: ecosystems, natural, artificial. In natural, again terrestrial, aquatic. In terrestrial, we have deserting and forest, and then grassland kind of an ecosystem. And when it comes to aquatic, we have oceans and lakes, right? Oceans and lakes, and even wetlands. If you see wetlands and, for example, mangroves, right? So you would have observed some of these in some BBC, videos where they will have a respiring roots. The roots would come out of the soil to respire. So pneumatic roots. So they will be having in a different ecosystem. So here in aquatic natural type of ecosystems, we have what? Oceanic lakes and wetlands, right? And these are all comprised in natural. And when it comes to artificial ecosystems that we made, man-made, right? What are those actually? Nothing but the crops, right? Forms, croplands. For that matter, croplands as an artificial ecosystem. If you remember that in evolution, we already studied that only 10,000 years ago, this entire agricultural farming and cropland system is developed by humans, right? Right, so this is which is something of man-made, right? Croplands and orchids, one of the artificial ecosystems. Orchids, or orchids. Orchid is one of the artificial ecosystems, right? And even gardens. So if you see, gardens, if you see in a by and large, gardens are all again human created and maintained by human. And though they are interacting with abiotic factors and animals and plants, like few different birds and all different interacting, but still this is made up of which is human intervention is there in this type of ecosystems, right? And even aquariums comprise of this artificial ecosystems. So naturally, what are the ecosystems we see, and artificially what are the ecosystems we see is what makes the point, right? Is that clear, guys? Now we are still in introductory part, so we are understanding about ecosystems in depth. Okay, is that clear, guys? What we are learning? If it is board, right, it would be little faster way we can go. So this is how this different types of ecosystems are there, right? Okay. Right, good. So what we will go into, so this is about the introduction of the ecosystems, right? And what we can to further moving moving further, what we gonna learn in this entire chapter is a very important thing. What we going to learn is, you know, we will be looking into two aspects. One is structural aspect of the ecosystem and one is functional aspect of the ecosystem. So what are the structural components of the ecosystem and what are all the functional components of ecosystem we are going to be learn. Okay. and and I told, right, in this ecosystem there would be an input of something and there would be output of something. So input, what we are giving is, right, the input what we give is productivity, transfer of energy. So these are the inputs that we give in ecosystems. So to further understand, inputs are these. What are all those? Productivity, food chain, productivity, transfer of energy through food chains or webs. When we talk about food chain is a much complex interaction and web is much more complex interaction, and even nutrient cycles. These are all input we are giving in the ecosystem, and the output what we get is nothing but through the functional components of ecosystem or nothing but degradation and energy loss. So these are all components we are going to learn in this chapter. So now we no need to worry about, sir, what is input, what is output, what is productivity, what is transfer of energy. Everything we will learn from now onwards. So these are the aspects we are going to learn. Is it clear? So we are going to even look into the relationships of these cycles, right? Energy flows and relationship of these cycles within the ecosystems. So that is the goal of this chapter, right? There are 6 units, 6 subtopics are there. We will try to finish it. Okay. First, we will be looking into the structure and functional aspects of the ecosystem. So if you see, if you remember that chapter 13, we already covered about some abiotic factors and biotic factors and their interactions and their effects, and how does the change in those light intensity or heat intensity or the other aspects, abiotic factors, how does that affects the biotic factors that we already learned in chapter 13, right? And now we'll be talking about interaction between this biotic and biotic factors. So separately we learned in chapter 13, right? Though, okay, these are abiotic factors, these are biotic factors, but we didn't talk about much of their interactions, right? So we will be talking in this lesson about their interaction, how these biotic abiotic components would interact, right? Right here. So to better understand that, we'll be what we going to how do we approach this lesson is simple. So to understand the structure of ecosystem, what are the components that are involved in structure of ecosystem, or nothing but composition of biological community, right? Composition of biological community in terms of number. It means how many, for example, how many fish are there, how many tiger are there, how many trees are there, how many types of this kind of a tree is there. So number, right? How much dominating, right? So number, in terms of number we'll talk, right? We are talking about structure, guys. So first we will talk about structural aspects. How many biotic components or what are types of biotic components, right? So what are the structural components of ecosystem that I am going to discuss now. So structural components of ecosystems are nothing but composition of biological community like flora and fauna and their distribution. In what terms we are going to learn? In what terms we are in the terms of number, biomass, its life history, population, and distribution of species. I'm repeating again. How do we study the structure of ecosystem, right? I already told that in this ecosystem lesson we will be talking about structural and functional aspects of ecosystem. So first we have to understand the structure, just like cell structural and functional unit of life, right? Likewise, first when we talk about structure, then we automatically will understand the function. So in structure, how do we approach the ecosystem structure? In these terms, right? Composition of biological community in terms of number, biomass, or its distribution, population, and life history. So distribution of this species in an geographical area, so in a particular area, right? And at the same time, availability and distribution of several non-living factors such as nutrients, water, climatic, and physical conditions. What we are learning is simple. Uh, yeah. For example, I don't want to take this. Okay. So what we are learning is we are learning about ecosystem. If you consider ecosystem, right? Okay. 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 If you consider this is an ecosystem. Okay, don't laugh. This is an ecosystem, right? So this is an ecosystem. So it comprises of abiotic and biotic components. So we are talking about this structural aspects. This forms a structure, and these guys interact among themselves and community in terms of what terms? Sir, can you repeat it once again? Okay. We are discussing about structure of an ecosystem. Okay. So this entire lesson, as an introduction is started, we understood what we understood by ecosystem. What is this ecosystem? 1 minute. Ecosystem definition. What do you understand the ecosystem definition? So it's a functional unit of nature, whereas living organisms interact among themselves and also with the surrounding environment, leading to energy flow and nutrient cycle, right? So this is a definition of ecosystem, and we talked about different types of ecosystem, natural, artificial, right? At the same time, in this lesson, we are going to understand about ecosystem structural and functional aspects. To talk about ecosystem structure, so if you consider this as an ecosystem, this is an ecosystem, right? So this ecosystem consists of biological as well as abiotic factors, biological and abiotic factors, right? So how do they interact comes under functional aspects. So first we need to understand its structure. What are all the components? Is that clear? Is that clear? We are okay. So structure of ecosystem comprises of both biotic, bio and abiotic factors, right? Yeah. Okay. Once you read now, it's a simple paragraph. You will understand again. So the last time I'm repeating. So this structure of ecosystem involves, what does the structure of ecosystem involves? It involves the biological community, right? Biological composition of biological community in terms of their number. For example, I told this as an biotic factor. This is an ecosystem. This is biotic factor. If this is a biotic factor, for example, tiger, there is only one. Like this, I kept 100 tigers in an ecosystem, right? And this is a biotic factor, right? So likewise, biotic factors, how many biological forms community in terms of their number, biomass, and as well as population and distribution of species. Those are all components of structure of ecosystem. This is biological component and this is abiotic component. Abiotic component is nothing but availability and distribution of several non-living factors. What are those? Such as nutrients, water, climatic and physical conditions, right? So we are living here. You can see the abiotic factors as well. I am a biotic component, and there are abiotic light intensity, heat, like that. What are all abiotic factors that makes the structure of ecosystem? Is that clear, guys? Yeah. Okay. So when, yeah, good. So if you take if you try to understand its structure, right, we need to understand its components. Just now I told it has both biotic and abiotic components, right? So these biotic and abiotic components constantly interact in the ecosystem, right? So this is abiotic and this is biotic, and they always constantly interact with this ecosystem, right? And for more understanding of this interactions, what we can go for is we have to understand the distribution of this biological biological component. For that matter, we have to place it in a different levels of organisms. Arvindan, yeah, yeah. So we have to understand by an approach called stratification, right? What is stratification for that matter? So stratification is nothing but vertical distribution of different species occupying different levels. So we are talking about biotic components. Hi Arvindan, I'll talk to you later. Okay, just follow the class. Yeah. If you see here, to understand the biotic components within this ecosystem, because ecosystem is comprised of biotic and abiotic, right? So to better understand the functions, we need to understand the structure. So to better understand the structure of this biotic components and distribution, we need to we will be going for stratification. What is stratification? Stratification is nothing but we will be putting, we'll keep, or will vertically distribute different species occupying different levels. So what are all those different levels? For example, producers, consumers, top consumers, carnivores, herbivores, like that. We categorize this species in different levels. Is that clear? So stratification is nothing but vertical distribution of different species occupying different levels, right? For examples, tree occupy top vertical strata or layer of a forest, right? If you take in plants, right? You take in plants, it starts with, for example, grass, and then herbs, shrubs, and trees. Trees are topmost, so all different trees are kept in that level, right? All different shrubs, different species shrubs, and all herbs and all grass. So this is how we stratify. Is that clear? So stratification is one of the approach which is important to understand the structure of the ecosystem. Is that clear, guys? Everyone? Are you able to follow? Right? Okay. So that is about stratification, right? And then we will be talking about the components of ecosystem or seen to function as a unit, right? So these are all structural aspect of an ecosystem. When it comes to function, what are all the, when you see this, these are all the following components could they will be functioning as an unit, right? These are all interdisciplinary. They will be interacting. right? And what are all these, different components that I'm going to discuss? So one such component is productivity. So productivity is one of the components. So what we're going to discuss is productivity, decomposition, energy flow, and nutrient cycles. So these are all the components that we will be discussing, right? So I told, right, in ecosystem we'll be giving some input and we'll be getting even output, right? So we are trying to understand the structural components of the ecosystem as well as functional components of ecosystem. How does this ecosystem is functioning? To better understand that, we need to understand these components. Nothing but productivity, decomposition, energy flow, and nutrient cycles. So these are all the aspects that we're gonna study. So if you see, uh, for example, after stratification, right, we kept producers, consumers, right, and there are decomposers. When few organisms die, right, so these decomposers are very important in the nutrient cycle as well as the ecosystem. Where, for example, if the flies are not decomposed for few a matter of 20 to 30 days, almost 20 feet of a layer can be formed, right? 20 feet of depth of layer can be formed within no time. So decomposition is very important and decomposers are very important, so which includes in this nutrient cycles. So this is how these components would interact, right? So that gives us input, that is productivity, energy, and nutrient cycle, as well as the output as decomposers, mean energy loss as well. So these are all aspects that we're gonna cover. But for that matter, flow of nutrients, how the nutrients are replenished, how the nutrient cycles are actually replenished is also we'll be talking about. And how the energy flow, right, is continuous. For that matter, we depend upon especially the producers depend upon the sunlight, and consumers depends upon the producers, right? And decomposers decompose this dead producers and consumers, and again this nutrients would be replenished in the soil. So in that way we will try to understand the energy components as well as nutrients. Okay. So if you see, we will be talking about different pyramids or as well, right? So we can place this pyramid of strata for that matter as producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, and tertiary consumers. So in primary producers, we will be getting plants, algae, cyanobacteria, or then examples. When it comes to primary consumers, we get insects, mice, and rabbits, and other organisms as an primary consumers. And on primary consumers, these secondary consumers will be depending upon, and the top consumers, which they depending upon the secondary consumers. So this is how strata is formed, stratification. So likewise, we can study the entire functions, or this entire functional aspects. And when it comes to functional aspects of an ecosystem, there are four types. That's what I gave here. The four types of functional aspects that we gonna cover are nothing but productivity, decomposition, energy flow, and nutrient cycle. I just gave some introduction about productivity. Productivity is nothing but the consumer, how much food it is, how much it is producing, and then decomposition decomposes energy flow from one level to other level. How this energy is going from consumer to primary, from producers to primary consumer to secondary consumer to the tertiary consumer. How this energy is kept in an in a dynamic flow, that we're gonna talk. At the same time, nutrients like cycles, how this carbon is replenished, phosphorus is replenished, nitrogen is replenished, right? So these are all the functional aspects of ecosystem. So first one we talked about ecosystem definition. Second, we talked about ecosystem and its type, natural and artificial. And third, we talked about ecosystem as a structural unit. What are the structural aspects we talk about? Abiotic and biotic components that involve in ecosystem. And to better study what approach we go, we put them in a levels stratification. After keeping everything in place. So these are all structural aspects. Then we will talk about the functional aspects of these guys. Nothing but this biotic and abiotic factor, how they are interacting. So those are the functional aspects of an ecosystem. So far what we completed is structural aspects, and now we are entering into functional aspects of the ecosystem. And these functional aspects are of four types: productivity, decomposition, energy flow, and nutrient cycles. So one by one we'll try to address and we'll try to understand. Okay. So So when we take, for example, as a pond as an example, in pond, right, there are abiotic components. Today we'll try to just visualize an ecosystem, simple ecosystem, that is pond, right? Take example of pond as an ecosystem, right? Uh, yeah, pond ecosystem. Take example of pond ecosystem. What do you see in pond? What are the abiotic components? So far, before we discuss, you see pond or lake in a very different sense. Now we talked about the functional aspects, right? Components and structural components, right? Now can you write down for a pond ecosystem what are all the structural aspects we see? Structural components of a pond ecosystem. What are the structural aspects we can see in a pond ecosystem, guys? Structural components in a pond ecosystem. Pond, right? Pond or lake. You take pond, simple pond. You would have seen in Govijitpalayam, around here, Pachamalai Road, here somewhere inside, right? So what does this pond comprise of? What are the structural components of this pond ecosystem? Because it is self-sustaining, you are not taking care of that pond, right? It is able to replenish itself, its nutrients, etc., etc. What does it contains? Pond ecosystem. Anyone? Can you give separate this pond ecosystem for me as in structural components and functional components? What does pond consist, for that matter? Did you understand my question, guys? What does pond contains? You guys are there. Microorganisms, plants. Okay. Okay. So you are talking about structural aspects. That is abiotic and biotic components, right? Fishes are abiotic. Very good. Great. That's it. So now you guys got the concept. That is, this pond ecosystem consists abiotic components and biotic components. Abiotic components, light, water, nutrients, especially etc., are abiotic components. Right, very good. And what are the biotic components we can see? Different organisms that are involved in the this pond, right? Nothing but biotic components are like, yeah, algae, fungi, microorganisms, plants. So these are all comes under, for example, phytoplankton. Yeah, correct. So now you understand the structural aspects, right? And how they are interacting within this pond makes that functional aspect of ecosystem. Now you guys understood? So any ecosystem, these are the important aspects, and this is how an ecosystem works: structural components, functional components. Now everyone is able to tell the structural components, and the functional components are what is the food produced, how energy is moving from one level to other level, that is who are all producers, who are all consumers, who are all top consumers, like that. And nutrient cycles, food chain, food web, these are all energy cycles. These are all comes under functional aspects of the ecosystem. Like algae is eaten by small fish and small fish is eaten by big fish, makes an food chain. And the small fish makes as an heterotrophic, and this algae is autotrophic. So we are again stratifying. So autotrophs, heterotrophs, right? So producers, consumers. And these guys, for example, algae makes us productivity. Is it are you guys understanding productivity? No, these producers are able to, survive by their own photosynthesis based upon the light, and they are able to feed the next level organisms, nothing but primary consumers, right? So that's how the energy is moved from one level to other level. So energy flow is there or not? Are you able to understand the functional aspects of ecosystem? Yes, did you understand, guys, what I'm speaking? Exactly, right. Did anyone didn't understand, guys? You please let me know. All good? Yeah. So this is what I'm telling. So in this ecosystem, there is a structural aspects, functional aspects. So structure is something about biotic components, and function is how they interact. For that matter, how much of food or energy is produced by producers and how much is consumed by consumers. Energy flow, energy chain, food web, all nutrient cycles, all these things comes under what? Functional aspects of the ecosystem, right? Even the decomposition. For that matter, this fish and algae died, right? When they die, right, they reach to the bottom, right? And then this decomposes microorganisms, right, act on them, and then finally they make into inorganic matter. So what is decomposition? Organic molecules are broken down into simpler inorganic molecules. These inorganic molecules again will be utilized. This is how the cycle keeps on going, nutrient cycles. So even the decomposition also comes under this functional aspects of the ecosystem, right? So when you see these energy cycles, right? So these all four, four, what do you say? These all four functional aspects of the ecosystem, right? Individually we'll take and we will try to understand. So for the next class, we'll be starting with the productivity. What is productivity, right? So next class we'll be talking about productivity, right? That is how this how can we, in what terms we say it is productivity, and what are all the things involved in productivity. All those aspects will be covering in the next half. So far what we completed is 14.1, and next class we will be talking about 14.2. So in this we will be talking about GPP, that is gross primary product, NPP, net primary product, right? Like we have in guys, one thing you have to make sure, or one thing you have to remember, is that this ecosystem works just like an economy of an India, or for that matter any country. Let's take our country itself, right? There are primary producers, someone is actually producing the money. So how this money is going in different strata, right? So reaching different levels. Who are the top carnivores? So who is accumulating more energy, right? So likewise, this ecosystem is more of economics, right? You will be really fascinated to see both. If you keep the both economics and ecosystem together, and if you see the definitions and the functions of how the economy, Indian economy functions, it's as relatable as an ecosystem, right? I will because I'm giving GPP, right? That is gross primary product. Like that, we have a GDP in the case of economy. So this ecosystem and ecology, this economy, we can interrelate our ecology or this what do you say, economics. So that's really fascinating thing. So next class will be starting with the 14.2. Okay, 14.2 will be talking about productivity and then decomposition, energy flow, and nutrient cycles. So, and each aspects will be covered in this upcoming sessions. I will try to take more than one class, and we'll try to finish these lessons as early as possible. Is that clear, guys? So far we completed 14.2. I mean 14.1, and 14.2 will be next class. Is that clear, guys? Everyone? Okay. So now homework is simple. Just go through this 14.1 aspects. Okay. Whenever you find time. Okay, guys. Will be my friend has joined. I guess Arvind. Okay. Okay, guys. Thanks for your patience and thanks for your response here. The way you're responding is very good. Please maintain that. And I wanted to congratulate all the people who involved in this, awareness, COVID-19 awareness, right? Saran, Kadir, Amrita, Prakalya, uh, Srividya, and CS students Hariharan, right? Tanuj, uh, who else? Rajavarma, Sivaditya. Everyone, a huge round of applause from everyone. I really congratulate. I'm very happy that you guys are doing, a great job, right? It's a great service that you can do right now. Okay, I'm very happy, extremely happy, and I'm looking forward you to do this kind of a projects as well. Okay, okay, guys. Stay at home and stay safe and be careful. Okay, we'll meet you in the next class. Thank you. Sure. If I miss anyone's name, Kritika also good. Who involved in this. Uh, okay. Okay. Thank you, guys. See you in the next class. Bye. Okay. Yeah, Adams. Yeah. Bye. Arvind, are you here?